UFC fighter just won his fight. Cameras on him, whole country watching, White House behind him, and the first thing out of his mouth.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
The whole internet exploded, and two of the biggest names in black entertainment, DL Hughley and Jamie Foxx, they didn't stay quiet, not for 1 second. Let me paint this picture for you properly, because the context here matters more than people realize. Last night, for the first time in American history, the UFC held fights at the White House. Not near the White House, not outside the White House gates, at the actual White House. Fighters doing their walkouts from the Oval Office. History being made in real time.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Now, already before anything else happened, this event was controversial because there are people on both sides of the aisle who feel like the White House is sacred ground, that it represents something bigger than any one president, that certain things just don't belong there. But whatever your opinion on that, what nobody expected, what nobody had on their bingo card was what happened when Josh Hokit grabbed that microphone after winning his fight. He had the whole moment, cameras rolling, President Trump in the crowd, history being made all around him, and he chose to say that. Now the internet did what the internet does. It immediately split into two camps. One side laughing, calling it a joke, saying people need to lighten up. The other side absolutely furious, saying this crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed. And sitting firmly in that second camp, DL Hughley and Jamie Foxx. Now, DL Hughley has never been the type to hold his tongue, never been the type to see something and not say something. That's been his whole brand for 30 years. And when he saw that clip, he didn't hesitate for a single second. First thing he did, reshared Hokit's comment with one caption. This what we doing? 4 words, no essay, no long explanation, just this what we doing. And that said everything. But Hughley wasn't done, not even close, because it wasn't just about Hokit for him. It was about the entire event, the entire night, the entire vibe. He went on his stories and reshared a meme that simply said, F the UFC. Then on Threads, he went further. He said, and I want you to really hear this. Only 2 kinds of people went to the White House last night for that UFC event. Racists and people who have no problem with racists. No middle ground there. No, well, some people might have just been sports fans. No nuance. Hughley drew a line and he dared people to cross it. And then he made one more connection that I thought was actually really sharp. He pointed out that Shane Gillis, the comedian who hosted the Kevin Hart roast on Netflix, was actually in attendance at this UFC White House event. Think about that for a second. The same roast that a lot of people had strong feelings about. The same comedian who has his own history with controversy, sitting in the crowd at the White House while a fighter calls Michelle Obama a man on live television. Hughley's point was simple. This isn't isolated. This is a pattern. And the same audience keeps showing up for it. Now, Jamie Foxx, who has been through his own very public battles this past year, he came at this differently. Where Hughley went aggressive, Foxx went elevated. Instead of firing back directly at Hokit, instead of getting into the mud, Foxx posted photos of Michelle Obama, beautiful photos, accomplished photos, and his caption was just 2 words, beautiful and accomplished. And honestly, that might have been the more powerful move, because here's what Jamie Foxx understood that a lot of people missed. When you respond to an insult by going lower, you're still on their level, you're still in their world. You're still fighting on their terms. But when you respond by simply lifting someone up, by showing who that person actually is, you change the entire conversation. Michelle Obama, Princeton undergraduate, Harvard Law graduate, hospital executive, author, mother, former First Lady, one of the most admired women in the world for over a decade. That's who Josh Hokit decided to comment on after winning a fight at the White House. Let that sink in. Now, it wasn't just Hughley and Foxx. Black social media and a significant portion of the broader internet had a lot to say about this moment.
Was this the point? Was this the point of the whole UFC backyard trailer trash brawl in front of the White House, to go after a black woman who has nothing to do with any of the events? That black woman ain't got shit to do with none of this, but yet y'all can sit there and still be racist and be trashy at the same fucking time. This is why I say, for any white person that says racism doesn't exist, there's your sign. Most educated first lady in history, because y'all forget that she's an Ivy League graduate ×2, a lawyer, a mother, a wife, an educator. Y'all will still find y'all way to disrespect her.
No one can convince me that they're not obsessed with the Obamas, because the Obama Presidential Center opens on Friday, and out of the nowhere, this ongoing lie that has been ongoing for over 10 years is somehow now funny and what's first on your mind to say after you won a fight.
And the reaction broke down in a really interesting way. For Black Americans who grew up watching Barack and Michelle Obama in the White House, who watched two people who looked like them carry themselves with dignity and class through 8 years of constant attacks, this wasn't just an insult to Michelle Obama the person, it was an insult to everything she represents. Think about what the Obama presidency meant to little black girls in America. For the first time ever, the most powerful house in the country had a black woman living in it. A black woman who wore her culture proudly, who talked about healthy eating and exercise, who hugged people and cried real tears and showed real emotion. And she did all of that while being one of the most educated people to ever hold that position.
And be trashy at the same fucking time. This is why I say, for any white person that says racism doesn't exist, there's your sign. Most educated first lady in history, because y'all forget that she's an Ivy League graduate ×2, a lawyer, a mother, a wife, an educator. Y'all will still find y'all way to disrespect her.
No one can convince me that they're not obsessed with the Obamas, because the Obama Presidential Center opens on Friday, and out of the nowhere, this ongoing lie that has been ongoing for over 10 years is somehow now funny and what's first on your mind to say after you won a fight.
Ivy League graduate twice over, Harvard Law, a lawyer before she ever set foot in politics. And this man, after winning a fight, decided that was the moment to repeat a conspiracy theory that has been debunked over and over again for more than 10 years. Why? What does that accomplish? What does that prove? That's the question that Black America and a lot of other Americans were asking last night. Now here's where this story gets another layer. Joe Rogan was there, commentating, right there on the mic when Hokit said it. And what did Joe Rogan do?
Joe Rogan slick had a little smirk on his face. But Joe Rogan, you knew what he was about to say. You knew he was about to say something crazy. That should have been checked when he said it. Because I don't have to sit here and say what Michelle Obama means to the black community, magically melanated, aka black community, what she means specifically to little black girls.
According to multiple people watching, Rogan had a smirk on his face. He didn't check it. He didn't say anything. He just let it ride. And for a lot of people, that silence was just as loud as what Hokit said. Because here's the thing about Joe Rogan. He has one of the biggest platforms on the planet, tens of millions of listeners. When he decides to speak, people hear it. When he decides to stay quiet, that's a choice too. And in that moment at the White House, with the cameras rolling and a fighter repeating a years-old conspiracy theory about the former First Lady, Joe Rogan chose silence. Now, some people will say, what was he supposed to do? It happened fast. He couldn't have anticipated it. Maybe he was just in shock, maybe. But the people who are upset aren't really asking Joe Rogan to be a hero. They're asking him to be a professional, to hold his space with some integrity. And a lot of people felt like he didn't do that last night. Here's what I keep coming back to though. Barack Obama has been out of office for almost 10 years. 10 years. He's not making policy. He's not on the campaign trail. He's not doing interviews attacking anyone. He and Michelle Obama have largely stayed out of public political fights since leaving the White House. And yet,
I'm not gonna hold y'all. At this point, I believe that the Obamas had to be doing something grimy behind the scenes. They either owe somebody some money or have done something crazy, because the way that these people are so obsessed with them when they have been out of the White House for years is absolutely insane. Because what do you mean you just want to fight on the White House lawn, and when you get a chance to get a microphone, you want to say that Michelle Obama is a man? That's what you want to talk about? So after a fight, the first thing on your mind is Michelle Obama.
the Obama Presidential Center is opening this Friday. And within days of that announcement, this happens at the White House. Coincidence? Maybe. But a lot of people don't think so. Because here's the pattern that people keep pointing out. Every time the Obamas do something positive, every time they announce something that celebrates their legacy, there's a response, an attack, a joke, a conspiracy theory that gets recycled back into the news cycle. And the question that a lot of people in the black community are asking is why? What is it about these two specific people that keeps drawing this kind of energy years after they left Washington? Some people say it's political, that they represent a Democratic Party that Republicans want to keep attacking. Some people say it's racial, that there are people who simply cannot accept what Barack and Michelle Obama represented and still represent to Black America. And some people, like the commentator in this clip, think it might be something else entirely.
I'm not gonna hold y'all. At this point, I believe that the Obamas had to be doing something grimy behind the scenes. They either owe somebody some money or have done something crazy, because the way that these people are so obsessed with them.
Now, I'm not going to tell you which of those explanations is right. That's for you to decide. But what I will say is this: when a UFC fighter wins a fight at the White House and the first thing out of his mouth is a 10-year-old conspiracy theory about the former First Lady, that's not random. That's not spontaneous. That's something that has been sitting in his head, something he decided was worth saying on the biggest stage of his career. And that tells you something. Dana White, UFC president, the man who made this event happen, the man who put it together and sold it to the White House. What does he have to say about this?
But Dana White, we need more than just words, man. We need more than just words. Because he was where Barack Obama resided as the first black president in America, where Michelle Obama resided as the first black first lady of America. He was on that property.
According to reports, Dana White said some words, made some kind of statement. But here's what multiple commentators and social media users pointed out immediately. Words aren't enough here. This happened at the White House, on live television, in front of the President of the United States, at an event that Dana White personally organized and promoted. And one of his fighters used that platform, that historic platform, to insult the former First Lady of the United States. If Dana White is serious about accountability, if the UFC is serious about being a professional sport with professional standards, there needs to be more than words. Because the message that silence sends, the message that just words sends, is that this kind of thing is acceptable. That you can say whatever you want as long as you apologize quickly enough afterward. And a lot of people across racial lines don't think that's good enough anymore. Here's what this whole thing comes down to for me. Josh Hokit had a moment, a real moment, a career-defining moment. He won a fight at the White House, in front of the president, on live television, and he chose to spend that moment repeating a conspiracy theory about a woman who wasn't there, who had nothing to do with his fight, who has spent her entire public life trying to lift people up. D.L. Hughley saw that and said, "This what we doing?" Jamie Foxx saw that and said, "Let me show you who she actually is." And millions of people across this country saw that and felt something.
And what I have to say to that is, we live in their heads rent-free. Because it's not making sense to me how you're at a UFC fight to celebrate the president's, y'all's president's, birthday, on the marking of a historic year for the United States. And the thing that you want to say in your speech about winning is Michelle Obama is a man. It just shows the bigotry, misogyny, racist behavior of that fan base.
Search UFC fighter insults Michelle Obama live TV, White House bigotry racism reaction. Whether you think it was a joke or whether you think it crossed the line, I think most people can agree on one thing. You have one moment on the biggest stage of your career, one moment when the whole world is watching, and what you choose to say in that moment tells everyone exactly who you are. Drop in the comments, do you think Josh Hokit should face consequences for what he said? Or was this just a joke that people are taking too seriously? And make sure you subscribe because this story is not over yet.